Coming up next.
She's a bleak house.
She's a bleak house.
Thank you. Hey everybody, welcome to the Bookening. My name is Nathan. Albertson is my last name. Aaron's my middle name. And I have no other names except for the pastor who's a master of reading.
That's not your name.
That's not my name. No, it's not even my title. My title is Humble and Obedient Host, and I'm going to introduce you to some fine folks today. One of them might even be a surprise if you're a moron that didn't listen to last week's episode. That,
hello,
of course, is
morons.
Brandon. Hey, Brandon.
Am I the moron?
No, you're not. No, you're not the moron.
Oh,
You may well have not listened to last week's episode, but you were there for it, man.
man, I was.
You were, and you were wearing a fine
Feels
sweater.
like it was just an hour ago.
An hour ago, yeah. Well, time is a flat circle and all that sort of stuff. Brandon, you got your hair slicked back, growing a little scruff, maybe trying to get a beard or
Who
something.
knows? Who knows? Occasionally, I like to see what happens.
Occasionally, you like to see what happens, yeah. One of my favorite people, he's Brandon Chastain. How you doing, Brandon?
Nathan, I'm doing great.
You're
You're one of my favorite people.
Thank you.
Welcome.
That makes me feel good,
Good.
because there's a lot of people out there, and I know you know some of them.
I know
And
at least a handful.
You know a handful, and I am one of your favorites.
Yep.
What have I done to become one of your favorites, Brandon?
You've been Nathan Alberson.
That's right. So if anyone else wants to become one of your favorite people, all they have to do
Is become you.
kill me, bury my body in a shallow grave somewhere,
Build a suit that looks like you.
build a suit that looks like me.
Get your wit and charm and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. There you
Yeah.
go.
And
So how do I know they haven't?
you don't?
Yeah, you could very well be an imposter who has done those exact things.
We'll never know.
Yeah, we'll never will.
You could be an imposter that killed Brandon and built a Brandon suit.
Yeah, we'll never know.
We'll never know. And speaking of imposters,
Yeah.
what if someone killed Jake and was impostizing him?
Yeah, man, that would be something.
That would be something.
Impasteurizing?
Impasteurizing? Yeah, like cheese.
It's bad.
Brennan,
Hey.
I need you to introduce the fake and or real
How do we know?
Jacob Menzel.
Do you have a knife? It's like that scene in Stranger Things
Do you
where
have
they
a
find
knife?
out that Will's not. They stab the dummy
Hey.
and they pull the cotton out.
Are you going to stab Jake and pull the cotton out?
Well, if he's fake, it'll be cotton.
Yeah, but if he's real, there'll be blood. And
Oh,
maybe
so much blood.
murder. Why don't you introduce Jake
Yeah.
and you can just and then report back to me on whether you think he's an imposter, and I'm maybe ask him something that only the real Jake would know.
Okay. You want to ask him the thing that only the real Jake would know?
No, you can.
Hi, Jake. Pastor who's a master of reading.
Hi,
I bet you don't know.
Brandon,
Yeah, he knows your
the
name.
scholar who's a baller of reading.
Oh,
Oh.
that sounds a lot like Jake to me.
hmm
What should we ask Jake? What's something that only Jake would know?
So let's try and trick him.
Yeah.
So Jake, did you
Yes.
enjoy your time hanging out, eating dinner with your wife Beatrice and your 8 kids?
No, I did not.
You don't like Beatrice anymore?
Yes.
Oh, ask him.
Okay. So I'm going to
Ask
consult
more
with
about-
Brendan here.
Ask more about the kids. The kids pursue that angle.
Okay, kids angle. How is Flippo?
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know.
Okay. I panicked and came up with a really dumb kid's name, Brandon.
This isn't going so well, Nathan.
I need a better kid's name.
Ask him about Imogene.
Imogene?
Imogene's a good name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jake,
Yes,
I'm a Gene.
you are.
Yes.
You are a gene.
Yep. Brandon, he thinks I'm a Gene.
Yeah.
That's not something
Well,
that
I mean,
real.
technically you are a Gene. No, you're not wearing jeans.
No, I'm not wearing jeans. I never wear jeans. Maybe you're not the real Brandon.
Oh, no.
This is all a ruse. I was working with Jake the whole
Yeah.
time to
It's like the
expose
Mission
you.
Impossible.
You're exposed. That's right.
Tear off your masks now.
Oh, no.
And that's how you play Bookening introductions. But we're not done yet because we have to find out whether It's the real Danielle Luis.
Luis.
Luis,
William.
Spanish man.
What's your middle initial?
E.
E.
Wait, Louisa May Alcott?
Evelyn.
Louisa.
Oh, Evelyn?
Not Evelyn, no.
Eliza.
Wait, what's
Not
the
Eliza.
initial
Esther.
is what? L?
E.
E. Okay.
Esquire.
L like Eliza.
L like Elsa?
No, not Elsa.
Is it Esquire?
Esther.
No, it is not Esquire or Esther.
Jake, you have any guesses or do you know?
Elizabeth.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, wow. Eliza was close.
It was close.
Okay.
I almost
If
gave
only-
you half a point there.
Yeah.
But I was distracted by Luis over there.
Luis.
Luis.
Luis. Okay, guys, we have to verify that this is the real Dani.
Okay.
If she is, then of course she'd be the mom who's the mom of rooting. Dubstep Dani, some might call her. And other things. Mrs. McNeely, I assume some youngins probably, and some respectful ends
Mhm.
probably call her.
Some respectful Ingans.
Yep. Just generally respectful individuals that like to refer to people by their last names. What can we ask her? What can we do to trick her, boys?
Oh.
We should try and throw her a curveball, something that only the real Dani would know. So did you enjoy appearing on Heart of Darkness with us?
No, I didn't enjoy that.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Because you had a bad time appearing on Heart of Darkness and therefore didn't enjoy it?
Can one appear on an audio file?
She's awfully philosophical.
She is.
Yeah, she's backing you into a corner, man.
Can one appear on an audio file?
Or is appearing a visual kind of verb?
Don't let her distract you with her questions.
Ask her if she's actually Nietzsche.
So, Nietzsche, are you actually him?
He mispronounced my name.
Oh.
It's Dani.
Dani, okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Whew.
How do you pronounce it? Dani?
Danny.
Donnie?
You said Nietzsche.
Oh, Nietzsche.
It's not my name.
Danicha?
Nietzsche.
Ah,
Danicha. Oh, Danicha.
We're in Fiddler on the Roof.
All right.
Wow.
That was a great introduction. A+. I'm going to
Amazing
call it.
introductions today, yeah.
Yeah, that was a good one. I liked it. All right, guys. Bleak House. We were in the middle of a cliffhanger.
Ooh.
the house.
House.
Previously on the Bookening, Jake said,
The problem.
I don't think you even said Blum.
No, I was already going to finish it.
Oh, yeah. Previously on the Bookening, Jake said and now he's going to finish that sentence and he's going to express a thought and we're going to respond to it in typical whimsy and wisdom and Bookening fashion. So go ahead, Jake.
The problem is we only have a month
To read the book.
to read a book.
Oh.
Yes.
And, this is a
And those
big
months can be packed with other things like holidays,
Mm-hmm.
which the month that we had to read Bleak House was packed with.
Yeah.
Lots of things.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. I actually wondered what it would be like to divide this up into serials and actually read a serial a
We
month.
had that same conversation actually today, Nathan and I, earlier. If we actually broke this up into the serials and read them one serial a month,
I think we have too much input. We wouldn't remember any of it.
Yeah, it's
month to
possible.
month.
it's possible. But what I really think that there are a lot of. I love this show the way we have it set up. I
Mhm.
wouldn't change it for the world.
Nope.
But if there was a kind of book where there might be an advantage to the close read style,
Mm-hmm.
this is the kind of book.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To be able to take the time, spend the time that you need to
Well,
spend.
it's a book that's
Yeah.
meant to be luxuriated and you're
Yeah.
supposed to have the time. And when you don't have it, it's frustrating.
No,
yeah,
we don't want
and
to.
we just don't have the time to luxuriate in an 870
Yeah. I mean,
page book.
we will be running into that
It's
same
hard-
problem
it's
next
hard.
year.
Yeah. We will be running into that same problem next year.
We tend to do that with December book
Yeah.
or January.
Is that one January? I don't know.
That's December.
We'll have to announce our book.
What's our big Christmas book?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. Agreed. 100%. That is a flaw in the matrix that is the Bookening.
Yeah.
But
It's going to always disadvantage books like this, in my opinion.
yeah, and it will tend to favor things like
The Great Gatsby.
The Great Gatsby. Yeah.
Over this.
Which is dumb because The Great Gatsby is nothing.
Yeah, The
compared to
Great
this.
Gatsby doesn't hold a candle to this.
No.
Sorry, F. Scott. You're fine and all that, but
Yeah, you're fine and all that. You a Gatsby fan, Danielle?
I'm not a fan. The Great Gatsby, it was the book in high school where all the really cool, mature kids they understood The Great Gatsby and just how true it was. And so,
I would have hated those people.
all about life. Yeah,
And
all those
stuff.
guys.
Yeah, I knew people like that, and I always laughed at them.
Yeah, they were all the kids on theater or in theater and on
Oh,
the
I bet.
recycling club.
I feel like 1984 was that book for us. A, because it
Mm.
had a bunch of sex scenes. B, because it's just like people, you need to get it. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it was sophisticated.
They were undergrads.
Yeah.
But I never did.
Sophomores.
Yeah.
B.
Say what?
Sorry.
Sophomores?
Yeah. Sophomores in the.
Yeah, sophomorons.
Hey. Guys, it cannot be put off any longer.
Yeah.
I want to discuss the depiction of females in this novel. This is like the main course. This is the reason that I wanted Dani to be on this thing. Because what else? Oh, we did Poirot. That Idiomatic Christie. Obviously, she can't write characters. It's real flat and boring and terrible. And there's not really a lot of nuanced character writing.
Nobody listened to Nathan.
Turn off the show.
Turn off the show.
Just don't listen to him about Agatha Christie.
No, she's great. Everybody loves Agatha Christie except for me because I'm a curmudgeon. I'm,
Curmudgeon. You
I don't
got
know
it
what
right.
the problem is.
That's a good word.
Yeah. Even you guys like Agatha Christie.
I thought
Even
she was
me.
fine.
Yeah.
I was entertained.
Mm-hmm.
entertained.
And that was not her best work.
Was it? Yeah.
Reference to Gladiator.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
great.
good.
Yeah,
Hey, you're welcome.
wonderful. The frost, sometimes it makes the blade stick.
Yeah.
Two of us can reference Gladiator.
So, come on, Jake.
My name.
It's Batman. Wrong movie.
Maximus
Verdius.
Decimus,
Father to a murdered son.
husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
He got his vengeance in this life. He stabbed that guy. Spoiler.
Commons, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He deserved it, though.
Okay. Dani, your thoughts on Gladiator?
Good Christmas movie.
Uh-huh.
Better than Die Hard.
As a
Is there
Christmas movie
better
or just as a
Christmas
movie?
than Die Hard?
Christmas Story?
Toy Story.
Not a
Wonderful
fan.
Life?
Maybe.
Christmas Carol?
Muppet Christmas Carol.
A Muppet Christmas Carol?
Perhaps a controversial truth
Mhm.
about me.
Okay.
I have never cared for A Christmas Story.
Same.
I don't care for it.
That's fascinating. I'm in a room with the three people, and the doors have been locked, and we're setting it on fire.
It watches like a TV movie to me.
Oh, that's funny.
It's very nostalgic
I can
for
see
me because
Yeah.
A, I love the
Right.
40s, I love the era, and B, I grew up with it, so I can't separate. I don't know whether it's actually any good, but I sure love it.
I mean, I know it inside and out, but I've never loved it or really cared about it.
We never watched it when we were kids. I've only watched it
that's your problem.
as an adult.
Yeah, same.
So,
Yeah, that's your problem.
Yeah,
And to be fair, I haven't watched it in a few years. Maybe I would like it now.
probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah, I mean, it's a McNeely family favorite, and so I've
You've
watched
sat
it with them,
through it many a time.
but I'm just not a fan.
Wow.
Set in Indiana.
I forgot that. Yeah.
I am doing a podcast with three Grinches right now, and
Yeah.
I'm just a who down in Whoville who likes A Christmas Story a lot.
Well, maybe our hearts will grow 3 times today.
Maybe.
Maybe
Well,
Jake's will grow for Dickens.
Culver's has anything to say about it.
If Culver's has
My heart will grow. The new Culver's. I eat a lot of hamburgers.
It'll grow plaque in your
My heart will
arteries.
swell and expand.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
due to the unhealthy eating practices.
It took me a minute to figure out
He's
what in the
with us
world.
now. That was bad. It's a bad joke.
What were we
Bleak
talking
House.
about? Bleak House.
Women,
Mm-hmm.
do we like them?
Wow. Brandon,
Does
loaded
Dickens
question.
like him?
In this day and age. They're fine. I'm okay. I like some of them. Don't
Yeah.
like others.
Yeah.
I like the nice ones. Don't like the nasty ones.
I like the good ones, but not so much the bad ones.
My favorite women.
In my opinion.
I like the incandescent Meredith a lot. I like my mom. These would be in my top 5. Let's see.
In no particular order.
No particular order. You got incandescent Meredith and my mom. They're like vying for the top.
Yeah.
If the incandescent Meredith ever becomes Mr. Nathan, which I assume she will.
Mr. Nathan, yes.
Mrs. Mr. Nathan.
Yeah.
which she will.
If she stabs me, assumes my identity, and gets a gender swap thing.
Meredith, is that you?
Hello, Brandon. I'm the incandescent Meredith.
Of Nathan.
I'm an incandescent.
Oh,
That's terrifying.
I don't know
Meredith
why.
is also a boy's name.
This is the voice that I'm doing. Ow.
it's like Christian Bale's Batman.
Denny, do you want to be in my top 5 women?
Sure.
You
It's
can be
pretty
number
open.
5.
You got a couple sisters-in-law.
Yeah.
I like them.
So they have to be
Point that
3
out.
and 4. So the 5 spot is still open. I guess you can be in it unless I come up with someone that should be in it over you, which is possible.
It's possible.
We're friends. I like you a lot, but I don't. Top 5 is
It's a big thing.
it's a big thing.
I mean, you've never
Mary.
even been over to my house before.
No, I
you
haven't.
go over to Menzel's all the time.
Yeah, I do. So Amanda Menzel can be my number 5, I guess.
Of Jake.
Of Jake. Yeah.
Yeah.
Commander
proper
Daddy's woman thing.
His woman
Wow.
Brandon, do you like women?
I do.
Who's your favorite?
My wife, Anna.
Okay.
She did not make
sitting
your
right
top.
there, not Danny?
Oh, Danny's?
No.
She's not my favorite.
No. Please, no.
Do my wife.
Your wife, okay.
Yeah.
Who's your second favorite?
I've got 2 daughters. Lovely daughters.
Yeah, they're nice.
Yeah. I have to come up with my top 5.
Yeah.
You got a great
I'm not
mom.
gonna do it. My mom.
You just need one more.
My grandmother.
Your grandmother.
There we go.
Oh, Jane Austen. She should be in mine. She's dead. Do they have to be alive?
Sorry, babe.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Amanda. I like you fine. You can just all be in the number 6 spot. Like Danny and Amanda, all the cool women.
Anna
in my
wasn't
life.
even in the running.
No, of course she was, Brandon. She's
No,
in the
she
number
didn't.
6 spot. Look. I
You're
like a lot
offending
of
all
women.
sorts of people, Nathan.
No, I'm not. Jake, your top 5 women.
Well, my wife,
Okay.
my 2 lovely daughters.
That's right.
His top 3.
Your top 3.
My wife and my 2 lovely daughters.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. Danny, top 5 women.
My sweet little girl.
Your sweet little girl? You only have one girl?
I know. I only one.
Weird.
4 boys.
4 boys. Okay.
And my mother and my mother-in-law.
Nice. Need 2 more to fill this.
Yeah.
She's only given us her top 3 too.
Top 3.
There we go.
Jane Austen could be
Wow.
on there.
She could be on there. Well, I've got a great sister and 3 fantastic sisters-in-law.
Oh, so it's just
So it's just I got
Throwing
too
those
many options.
Jennifer Lawrence, Lady
No.
Gaga.
Yes.
She's got the lady right in her title.
She does. I feel like we sang Lady Gaga once on a Bookening episode.
Did we?
Oh,
yeah, sure.
Uh-huh.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey, let's talk about the women in Bleak House.
Let's
Please.
do it. This is taking
Please,
a while.
let's do.
The women are in Bleak House. They're there.
Mhm.
Dickens writes about them. We talked about this a little bit in last episode. Sometimes these Victorians are pretty sentimental and treacly and lame, and they write these vapid, insipid, terrible women characters, especially if it's a man that's writing. But sometimes even if it's a chick that's writing, they write these bad women characters, and they're just not good, and you don't enjoy reading them because you just feel gross. Did Dickens do that?
With Bleak House.
I think we all agree he did it sometimes. He was known, he did it in his career. Would everybody here agree Dickens did that in his career?
Yes.
Agreed.
Okay.
Quite often in David Copperfield.
Quite often. That first wife, and how he resolves that storyline.
And Agnes is pretty bad too.
Yeah.
Esther gets started that way, in my opinion.
Esther
I'll just
starts
go
that
ahead
way.
and say that.
Yep.
Yeah, so it was interesting. Esther didn't bug me at the beginning because there was one particular conversation that reminded me of a conversation I had with a friend recently.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had that friend, she was kind of superimposed on top of Esther,
Mm-hmm.
and that made her really relatable.
I just thought she was the bad version of Fanny Price when it got started.
Huh.
And
What makes Fanny Price the good version of Fanny Price and Esther the bad version? Because Fanny is pretty goody two shoes in her way.
yeah, but there's a brokenness to Fanny's. Okay, they're both broken and abused, but there's it's like a sentimentalized and glorified kind of like it made her everything that is great thing about it. Weird thing with Esther that just wasn't the same with Fanny. I don't know. Maybe it's just intangible. I don't know that I can put my finger on it.
Did you end up
Well-
continuing to think about your friend the whole time? And
I think so. So the conversation that did it was, what's her darling's name?
Caddy?
No.
Oh, Candy? Whatever. Not Candy. Ada.
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 Yeah. Esther said something, I wish I should have pulled it up. I should have looked it up earlier. But Esther said something like, and Ada said I was such an encourager and she had no idea how much she was encouraging me. And that was, almost the exact words that of this conversation with my friend who was saying, I just feel like I don't have any gifts. And I said, you're an encourager. And she said, that's so sweet of you. You're so encouraging. It's like, no, wait a second. That was exactly how it went. And my friend actually has an abused background as a broken. It's actually really similar.
Mhm.
And she's a real person who is genuinely that sweet. And she's not without flaws. And I think, she's not she's not Esther to a T. So I think now it was actually nice reading this because Alex was reading it too around the same time. So we could talk about it some. And he, by the end, when Richard and Ada have gotten married and all that, he was like, I am just so like, how is this still happening? How is everyone still okay with this? He was pretty over it by then.
With Richard and Ada.
Oh, and sick of Esther and Jarndyce and everyone who's like, well,
Lover's
it
gonna
happened.
love. Yeah.
They just love each other. Like, she just loves him so much, and that's so beautiful.
Actually, the number one moment in the whole novel where a woman made me want to puke with was not Esther, actually. It was Ada when she says something to the effect of, even though everything is the most terrible thing ever, I'm still so glad that I married Richard. Like after everything's gone south, she's still so loyal. And so it's just like, I get that maybe I've known women in real life who end up in bad circumstances and have a good attitude, but that particular moment just felt like a little bit much in context.
Yeah, I would say if any of the characters are that sort of woman, it would be Ada in this book.
She's very flat.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't get that far. I got far enough to think that the Esther narrative was easily the best part. The part that I was always looking forward to getting back to.
Yeah.
I never minded Esther, actually, personally. I liked her.
I really think it's just that first chapter for me.
Yeah, I didn't mind it.
But,
I thought that, here's the thing. What makes the difference is the perspective that the author is bringing to it. And if they're being sentimental, like there is such a thing as a person who's just nice and good and suffers nobly. That does happen in life. When you feel the author saying, yeah, see how good they are, it's really annoying.
But that's what Dickens always feels like with.
Yeah, he does generally feel like that with a lot of stuff, but Esther in particular just didn't feel, for whatever reason, it did not feel that way to me.
Felt that way to me in the first chapter, but that started to, what I almost felt is that often in Esther's narrative, he would forget that he was writing from Esther's perspective, and he would just tell the story the way that he wanted to tell it.
That's funny, because I was actually just thinking I was so impressed by how different the two storytellers' voices were. Very distinctive.
Well, they are different and distinctive, but I felt like, and again, I probably shouldn't even be commenting on this stuff because I'm so early in the book, but Esther started to take a very different tone after that first chapter or two of Esther's.
Well, there's definitely the interesting tension of Dickens wanting to still get his satirical portraits in there and having to put them in the
Esther narrative in a way that Esther would never say that sarcastic or make that sardonic observation.
Right.
I think, in a sense, the way he gets around it is that she is a little bit like Fanny Price in the sense that she has discernment.
Mm-hmm.
And so when she's just writing to herself like this, she can say the things that she would never say out loud. And so
that makes sense.
She is very observant. She does have discernment. And what was I going to say? Oh, it's interesting that through her eyes, with her, he can idealize these people because that's kind of what she does.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of her flaws. And I think that as the novel progresses, you see that as a flaw that she has.
Mm-hmm.
And to the point where when she gets whatever she gets, it doesn't tell you, but her face is deformed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Probably scarlet fever.
That's what most people think, or smallpox or something.
Mm-hmm.
But she's interesting because I think, so when you see these other characters, like in his other novels that are idealized, these women, it's always through him.
Mm-hmm.
Dickens idealizing this person for you.
Right.
So like Little Emily or Little Dorrit or the women in David Copperfield, these characters like that. Dickens is the one who's idealizing them. It's interesting here because it's Esther who's idealizing these other people because that's what she does. She idealizes everybody to try and soften things.
She also idealizes herself and casts herself as a very humble, sweet, self-effacing kind of a person. And I thought I sensed a certain amount of ironic detachment.
Yeah.
Like Dickens is actually poking a little fun at her and letting her, say, "Oh, I'm so sweet," while she's making these sarcastic observations about other. Like I actually felt like she was a little bit more rounded, and maybe Dickens was casting looking at her askew or whatever a little bit. In a way
her
that
statements
made her
where
palatable.
she's saying that she's humble, or where she's talking about how everybody is saying she's humble and useful. And
she
stuff.
keeps telling you how someone came up and said all these wonderful things about her and how
she
much
just couldn't believe
she
it.
just couldn't believe it. And I didn't necessarily take all those things at face value, which is what allowed her to not be annoying.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's supposed to be some
That makes
sarcasm and
sense.
some
Yeah.
roundness there.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't forgive Ada, and that doesn't forgive the Ada and Richard
Mhm.
storyline either.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm with Alex there.
Yeah.
I think
Alex
it
just didn't like. I mean,
did
I
it
didn't
ruin
feel
the novel for him.
I don't think so. I mean, he's not quite done yet, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was a flaw so much as just as a feature, I guess. I mean, Ada and Richard were intentionally flat and allegorical characters, and I didn't feel like Dickens was cheating. Like, they didn't need to be well-rounded. Ada was just the devoted
well, I
person.
know. I
that
thought
was-
Richard was a little more interesting.
Yeah, he was.
Which so when they're on the same level, then that he's slightly more interesting. That just makes it more obvious that she's cardboard figure.
But is
She
there a
has
problem
no
with having a
emotional depth.
cardboard? I mean, she's a symbol. She's the innocent person that got dashed on his dumb hopes in the Chancery suit or whatever. Is that a bad thing for Dickens to do?
I think the point is that her response is so perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, it's really So I can see Richard and Ada happening.
Right.
Like that makes sense. What's annoying is how Esther responded and Jarndyce. By then, I was not very charmed by Jarndyce at all.
Well, Jarndyce is an
At that
interesting character, yeah.
Well, yeah, let's talk about him.
You want to talk about
Yeah,
Jarndyce?
we can go wherever the conversation leads us.
We can start off by saying that Nabokov, I think is, or Nabokov, however you say his name.
Lolita guy.
Nabokov, I
Nabokov.
think.
Oh.
Nabokov.
Mhm.
Smirnov.
Mhm. Bless you.
Thank you. He says that Jarndyce is the most moral character ever written into a novel.
Really?
Yeah, like one of the most upright, moral. I think that's the quote. I can look it up to verify that. But yeah.
I can see that.
Interesting.
I mean, one of the most obvious things about Jarndyce and get us started is that one of the main themes of this novel is what is real philanthropy versus fake philanthropy.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have that throughout the whole novel, starting as early as the jellybees and the aunt who took Esther in. Right, you get all her backstory and her relation to crazy guy. What's his name? Who's fighting the right of way battle with
Oh yeah.
Boythorn?
Boythorn? Yeah,
Boythorn. Yeah.
her relationship to him, the fact that they had a thing, right?
Mhm.
And
Uh-huh.
then she went so she could take Esther and was in bitterness and always made Esther feel her bitterness towards her and towards her mother. And so philanthropy and the way that we take care of others is a major part of this novel. And so Jarndyce steps in as this person who's completely committed to taking care of others, so much that he's taken advantage of.
Right.
So that's a brilliant move on Dickens' part to have created the character of Skimpole to
Yeah.
be the foil to, I guess foil is my favorite word for this
Mhm.
series.
Yeah.
But-
You like to have a favorite word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like the fact that Jarndyce basically ends his relationship with Skimpole redeemed a lot of Jarndyce, because
Yeah.
Jarndyce was enabling a lot of people in a bad way that I think I was similarly, you said you were over him or something.
Yeah.
I assume that was why, because he was just kind of ended up, his philanthropy was enabling some, to use a
Mhm.
dumb word from psychology.
Well, I think I wanted him to step in and do something at some point.
Mhm. Well, he did tell Rick off pretty strongly a
That's
number
true.
of times.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that.
But Rick never listened to him.
Mhm.
No, but it was
Not until
enough.
the end.
Yeah.
And he did offer to marry Esther.
Jarndyce did? Oh,
What?
yeah. Sorry.
Major plot point.
No, I thought you.
I thought you were saying what? Like I was wrong.
No.
So I was saying, am I crazy? Yeah. Spoilers for Jake. Sorry, Jake.
What?
Yeah.
Jarndyce threatens to marry Esther, or offers, or whatever.
Yeah.
No,
he writes that in
I
his
didn't
little
see
letter.
that coming.
He doesn't just offer. It's like a real thing that's happening for
Yeah,
like a
for a-
quarter of the book.
Yeah, a good significant portion of the book.
Yeah.
I know you were just wanting her to get with Woodcourt instead, though.
I know.
Alan Woodcourt.
Man,
There's-
he's a good character.
Alan is?
Yeah.
Talk about an idealized hero. He's like worse than a Jane Austen hero. He's like a doctor that saves people, and
But he's got a dark side.
does he? What's
This
his
is kinda
dark side?
moody.
Well, every
Right?
every idealized wish fulfillment hero needs a dark side.
Yeah,
A little
that's
bit
true.
of danger
Yeah.
in there. A little bit of bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well,
there
he's
you
got
go.
that awful mother
Yeah, he does have an
who ends
awful
up
mother.
being not awful.
It makes
But
him
she
that
also-
much more sympathetic. And
Yeah. I mean, it just sounds like you, Nate.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say every hero
not-
needs a dark side.
I guess he is pretty ideal Austenish. I don't know what Dickens did, but I mean, that's what I was going. I was going for that ending.
Mm-hmm.
He set me up well.
Interesting. Maybe you just don't like sentimental. Maybe you're a sexist. Maybe you just don't like sentimentalized women, or you do. Yeah. No. What am I saying? You know what I'm saying. Maybe when women are overly sentimentalized, you're like, ooh, gross. And when men are, you're like, ooh.
Well, that could be true about women being. I don't know. Well, no. Okay. So here's the question: Dickens does write really memorable and interesting and complex villainous women.
Mm-hmm.
Is he incapable of writing good women, or he just doesn't want to?
I think
It's really hard to write virtue. It's way harder to write virtue than it is to write villainy.
Yeah, that's true. But then he has good male characters.
yeah, he does.
But it's much closer to home.
Okay, yeah. I believe that.
I mean, I think Dickens. I think there is something icky. I mean, what did he, Brandon? He was sleeping with a woman that wasn't his wife by the end of his life.
Oh, yeah.
and it was an actress or something. It was a very idealized, romantic kind of a.
So David Copperfield is basically his excuse for this adultery he was committing. And so he married Catherine Hogarth and wasn't very happy with that marriage, and then found this actress that he fell in love with, and
she fit the
eventually
feminine
divorced.
ideal that he
Yeah.
kind of worships in these books, right?
Yeah, she was beautiful, and she was artistic, and the woman he wished he could have had.
Right.
And so he gives that to himself in some of these novels.
Yeah. That's what makes it feel icky for me. If it's a man or a woman, if it's a woman writing a man or a man writing a woman, and it's obviously something that they think that they deserve or they think that the other sex should be. It doesn't
For
bother me
them.
when Jane Austen does it with Mr. Knightley or Mr. Darcy, which is interesting. I don't know why. Maybe because those guys, well, Knightley not so much, but they both feel pretty real to me.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
like Darcy has a dark side. Like he actually, and it's not just a sexy dark side. It's
He has real flaws.
he has real flaws. Knightley's pretty perfect, but he's also sardonic and kind of adult, and he just feels like a dude. He just feels real to me. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Austen's just really, 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 really good at what she does. I think maybe that's why.
Well, there are Mrs. Bagnet's a really good character.
Yeah, he can write women, but to write a virtuous hero woman, well, he can't do that. I don't know.
Esther might be the closest he got.
I think Esther is.
And I did like Esther.
Yeah, I liked Esther fine. I really didn't. I know what Jake means, and I can understand why people hit Esther that way, especially with her horrible childhood and the evil mother figure that's being all religious.
There's a way
and
to do
nasty.
Cinderella.
Yeah,
I'm not, and I believe you guys that he pulls it off
yeah.
with
Well,
Esther. It's just
and you're not alone in saying. I mean, a lot of people don't like Esther. I mean, she's a pretty.
Yeah.
I knew this was going to be maybe the big topic of conversation about the thing because she's a polarizing character in the novel. I think.
Well, it is. It's also true that part of Dickens' style and what he does is he'll write various one-dimensional characters that are still really interesting and fun to watch act on the stage.
Yeah, like Skimpole, he has one trait, which is
Yeah.
he's a. I mean, what would you even say? He's a worm that
He's a leech.
he's a leech, and so but he's a.
Well,
Right.
he's guileless.
Yeah,
He's totally straightforward about his leechiness.
right. He's
Yeah,
the
he's
guy that's going to charm you by telling you exactly
But
Who he is.
what he's doing. He's going to put a dumb
Yeah.
spin on it.
right.
the closest parallel we've had to it is in like Anna Karenina, when everybody was just like with when that guy comes to visit Levin and Kitty, and he's hitting on Kitty because he wants to be her
Yeah.
paramour.
Mm-hmm.
And Levin gets angry and throws him out, and everybody's like, "What are you doing? It's what happens. You should be
You should be
flattered."
flattered, yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same. With this guy, obviously Dickens hated the fact that Victorian culture allowed for certain effete art types to just float around, taking advantage of everyone while they wrote their so-called poetry.
Mm-hmm.
And so Skimpole is a stand-in for that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times Dickens' characters will work more on the level of like allegory almost.
Right.
Like Tulkinghorn is a there's not a whole lot of depth to Tulkinghorn, but he definitely is a good stand-in for the lawyer who's keeping his secrets close to his chest. And Mr. Crook, he's definitely almost what would you say, an allegorical but epic figure.
Yeah, he's just a nasty.
Yeah.
You know who? Before we abandon the subject of females, this novel does have one actually pretty good portrait of just a normal woman who doesn't have any of the Dickens grotesque sort of eccentricity, but is also just a strong, interesting female. And that's Caddy.
Yeah.
She's a really good character, actually, isn't she? I like
Yeah,
her.
she has good growth. And
Yeah.
Yeah, Caddy actually reminds me of one of my cousins on my
Does he?
dad's side
Yeah.
of the family. Yeah.
And she starts out kind of bitter and complaining, and then she just like decides, maybe I won't be like that. And then she,
Yeah. And it's believable. And
and you really feel she just, I don't know. It's like Dickens wasn't hitting on that particular character, and so she was allowed to just be normal. And
Well, he
cool.
was sympathetic to her from the start because she's the product of something he hates
Right.
with her mother.
Yeah.
So he ends up giving her something interesting to do.
Yeah, and that is what I was trying to get to that point, was that he'll have all these one-dimensional characters on the stage, so that then a few of the three-dimensional characters can actually have a little more depth and life to them. That's typically the way in most of his novels. David Copperfield is the most three-dimensional character, maybe the only one.
David himself, you mean?
Yeah, David. Yeah. There are some others maybe that would be in the running, but there are a few more. But Jarndyce is not really that fleshed out of a character. He's got his one thing that he does. It's the wind images that he uses, and maybe the most fleshed out character would be Esther and some of these other minor characters here and there. But Dickens' world is mostly populated by fairly cartoonish. I mean, that's kind of unfair because sure, they have all sorts of qualities, and
Well, yeah, I think over 800 pages, they get a little extra.
yeah.
Yeah,
But there's
more
still
than one dimension.
something slightly unreal about a lot of them.
Mhm.
They're
Oh,
exaggerated,
yeah.
but like the Deadlocks, they're pretty good. They're
yeah, that was my other thought.
Sir
of,
Leicester is surprisingly sympathetic at the end in a way that you don't quite see coming, while still being a upright, snobby kind of a guy.
And Mr. George is supposed to be I think a relatable character.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was good. Interesting that he ends up working for Mr. Deadlock or Sir Deadlock, whatever you call him.
Sir Leicester.
Yeah,
Mom gets her wish.
his mom gets her wish.
Yeah.
And I like some of the gross. Like Tulkinghorn is a wonderful character, and he is just one thing. He is just like, this is what the closed-lipped family butler character is, almost the archetype. Just like the guy that knows all the secrets and sort of holds them over everybody.
But every scene he's in is dominated by him.
Yeah, he's
Oh, yeah.
terrifying. I mean, he's like a good villain. I was almost disappointed when he died because you lose such a lively, powerful force.
Yeah.
In the novel.
I also the brickmakers' wives, I think, are better than, or maybe because they just got more time, they ended up being more interesting.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to remember. Their trait was just that they got beat up, right?
Well, I mean, there was that scene where Jenny's baby dies. So this is a friend that I've gotten to know through Instagram. I've never had an online friend before.
There you go.
But she's been reading it because she listens to the Bookening.
Hey,
Hi.
shout out to Danny's friend.
Hey, Ashton. And so she'd read that scene and was like, this is not real. This is
The dead baby
overly
scene,
overly
Sentimental.
sentimental. Yeah, sentimental. And so I reread it, and rereading it and looking at her friend. I don't know, you have to go back and reread the scene, probably to remember it. But her friend who comforts her and is with her in spite, and always looking over her shoulder for her husband who's going to beat her. It brought it brought a lot more humanity to that, and then contrasted immediately following, or it's right after Mrs. Particle, who was another example of that wicked philanthropy.
Oh, she's awful. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think why I think of Dickens as I missed your context, but wanting to humanize the lower classes, and see them as real.
He's definitely an SJW, if nothing else.
Yeah.
It's interesting, by the way, reading a novel. I don't know that I have anything profound to say about this, but it's interesting to read a novel that is so concerned with a social issue that has parallels, yes, but also just in some ways isn't a thing. Like, we don't have that court system anymore. And so he's like railing against something, and you feel it, and you're like, yeah, we should get rid of the Chancery thing that doesn't exist in my country and never has and never will.
I mean, but we have parallels here.
We do.
We've got
we've got a pretty messed up court system ourselves.
Our court system, our incarceration system is pretty messed up. Such a high, feeding the system just so that lawyers and other people can get their money and get their payday out of the system. We have plenty of that sort of stuff too. Things don't change that.
Yeah,
much.
it's relatable. It's not like some of the most interesting stuff is the Chancery stuff actually in the novel, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That it's interesting because why would it be interesting?
Why? Yeah.
Well, just
But
seeing
that
how.
go
ahead.
that nasty guy that Richard goes to. What's his name?
Oh, Mr. Voles.
Yeah, Voles and his.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's some of the best descriptive stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not a nice guy, Mr. Voles.
Yeah.
Yep. I got a lot of thoughts swirling around. I'm not sure which direction to go.
Well, one thing to go back to the social justice warrior stuff with Dickens, one thing you do see in his novels that you don't see in a lot of other Victorian novels of the time, they would mostly be concerned with class and the workings of the upper echelon.
Mm-hmm.
And with Dickens, you get these things like Tom All Alone's?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tom's all alone.
Tom's All Alone, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Those areas where you get Joe, the chimney sweep, and
Mhm.
these portions of London that seem real and dingy,
Mm-hmm.
almost hellish. But that's because Dickens actually, we mentioned this in context, he actually would go on these long strolls often at night.
Mm.
And he would go into these portions of London and would go and talk to families. He would just like wander into people's houses and talk to them. And so a lot of this was like just firsthand reporting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and he was very concerned for these issues, and he hated the chancery courts for how they would just consume families and destroy people's lives like this. So the issue of philanthropy for him especially would have just been, he would have hated it.
Yeah.
Like I think today
Mhm.
he would have hated things like seeing Starbucks claiming that it's say helping lives in Guatemala.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
He'd been like, what lives are you helping in Guatemala?
Right.
You're probably helping keep the lives poor
Right.
so that you can have Starbucks.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he would have been part of these social justice movements. But
Interesting.
Well, I don't know what this has to do with anything really besides the philanthropy, but the moment that actually made me lock into, oh yeah, I remember this is why I love Dickens, was when we met Mrs. Jellyby, because
Uh-huh.
it's so nasty. And then it gets so cartoonish with a little boy bouncing down the stairs and hitting his head 7 times
yeah,
on the way down. And it's just like really over the top, but it's just like, it's funny, it's brutal, but there's real conscience behind it that I
Yeah.
like. Like, I actually like that about Dickens. He seems like a good man for all his faults when you just see the kinds of things that he hated. And I don't know, it's
well, yeah, he had his flaws,
Mhm, yeah.
but
Mhm.
he was concerned for the poor.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
His father had gone to debtor's prison? Is that right?
yeah, his father was in
Okay.
debtor's prison, and actually, it's a sore spot in his childhood because his father had gone to debtor's prison and then got out fairly quickly because of an inheritance, but he still kept Dickens in a canning factory for a while.
Huh.
And so Dickens felt like he had been cheated out of a portion of his education. And so
He did okay for himself.
he did fine for himself. Yeah, so like A Christmas Carol, a good portion of the proceeds from that went to help with issues of poverty.
Mhm.
I don't remember the exact stuff it was helping, but I remember when we did context for that. And so he was very mindful to use his wealth to help. And it's also interesting. I mean, these sorts of novels, a large part of the power of this would be that people would then care.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get them to care about Joe the chimney sweep,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
then that makes them actually care about the street urchin in a way that they weren't before. That's part of the power of these sorts of storytelling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Stories. So is that it will create new metaphors and images for people so that they won't go and kill Tiny Tim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good when people don't kill Tiny Tim.
Yeah.
Well,
I-
and with Mrs. Jellyby and Mrs. Particle,
Mm-hmm.
which this might not be relatable to most people who read it now, but as a mother with a large family,
Oh yeah.
those were, relatable enough, it's real. I could see Mrs. Jellyby as any sort of woman now who has all of her grand ambitions and is just totally neglecting her home.
Well, she's an
Um,
Erica Roseblum.
yeah.
To an extent.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of an Erica Rosebloom. Yes. That's
Yeah, actually, I thought of Mrs. Particle with Erica Rosebloom, who
Yes,
has the
yeah.
family all dressed up nicely, and they all know the
That's
right words
more-
to say.
yeah. Don't the kids
Um,
have to like the kid was made to give his allowance?
Yeah, they
and-
all donate their whole allowance, and
Oh,
yes,
they've all
that's-
signed the
that's
papers
more.
that they'll never drink. And,
hated.
Yeah.
Oh, what a terrible woman.
mhm.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and those are transcending. Yeah, I think because they're caricatures,
Mm-hmm.
that you can plop them in now and see. Yep, this is a real thing. People really like that.
Oh, yeah. That's part of the universality of his caricatures is
Mhm.
that, like with really well-drawn characters like Levin or someone, since we're already talking about Tolstoy,
Sure.
you can feel, I know Levin and I can feel like Levin, but with a character like Skimple, you can be like, I know Skimples.
Oh, sure.
Or you
Uh-huh.
can be like, oh, I know Particles. or
Brandon,
I
I can't talk about this at all, but Brandon texted me the name of a skimple that we both know and just said, "Yep."
That's a Skimple.
And I
I
said,
bet I can
"Yep."
guess who it was.
I bet you could.
I almost said the same person's name out loud when you brought him up earlier.
Yep.
And and so you know these people, and it's not just like oh, they're like this person. It's no, they have the essence that is this person in them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's because that's what he had these broad watercolors that still somehow had life to them.
Well, it's so helpful morally to just have these kinds of exaggerated characters in your mind as mental placeholders. So you can just say, yep, this person that I know, sure, they're not as bad as Mrs. Jellaby, but they're a Jellaby. They're a whatever. They're a Turley Drop. They're a
Well,
Turvy Drop.
and part of the virtue is that if they're exaggerated enough that you can separate yourself from them while still seeing yourself in them, it makes it easier to swallow the rebuke for people. You know,
Yeah.
you don't have to feel like you got nailed to the wall by Mrs. Jellyby because she's absurd.
You go, oh,
But
yeah. I'm
you
not that
see
bad.
all of
but,
the ways
ooh.
that you have your Jellyby tendencies, and
Yeah,
then you're
yeah.
like, I gotta pull back. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any
Um,
business
Before I get to that
was
point.
Scrooge, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not Scrooge, but I see where I could learn some things from Scrooge.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, what I'm trying to wrap my head around here, get my thoughts around is what I really hate. Well, I hate two tendencies in literature. One, I hate the whole transcendence, the whole, the great conversation.
Sure.
Transcendent themes, and let's just look at the novel for the transcendent. Like, who cares about the transcendent universality themes? Oh, that's so interesting. But who I really hate, because I actually like you guys just fine. You just irritate me a little. And then on the other end, we've got the people who think that literature is only, and art is only effective if it's political. Right. And so it's got to be political. And so this is where you have a lot of like the indie art movements and especially the weird modernist stuff that you have. Well, the stuff that would be in the modernist trend that you'll see if you go to an art museum, like just a light on the wall because it's representing the poor in Africa.
Right.
And you don't get it because you're just not thinking like you should be. Like a lot of everybody who in high school or as a sophomore thought that they understood Great Gatsby,
Yes.
they become this kind of
Right.
person.
Yeah.
And it drives me nuts because what you see with Dickens and what I think drives them crazy about Dickens is not doing this just for political purposes. His primary purpose with Bleak House is to entertain you.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's to tell you a story that moves you, that sometimes maudlin, sentimental ways makes you cry. Or maybe doesn't make you cry because it's maudlin and sentimental and you're beyond that. But still, his primary goal with the novel is to tell you a story because he's a storyteller. He wants to move you that way. Secondarily are these other things that happen. And there are political things that happen.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I think that the world would be a much different world had Scrooge not existed.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Christmas would be very different.
Uh-huh.
A lot of the warmth and happiness and cheer we have around Christmas time about families and helping the poor and giving gifts and all this warmth we feel probably has a good bit to do with Dickens.
Well, and I'm not a social historian, but I've been thinking this whole time, probably a lot of the way that we think about the poor in general is the heritage of Dickens. Just the way that he gave a certain, sentimental, I guess, way of thinking about them. Just thinking about them as human beings who suffer, which you don't actually see in a lot of literature.
In that way, Steinbeck was just carrying on the work of Dickens. And so literature can do that sort of political work. Yeah, it's political work. Sure. If you want to call it politics, go ahead and call it that. Morons. But still, it's just what art will do. That's part of the work it does.
But here's the thing about Dickens. He is always a moralist, which is what I like about him. He is not ever... He is talking about systemic, I guess what you'd say, issues, but it's because of the avarice of man. It's because of greed. It's because of sadism. It's because of brutality. It's because of meanness and coldness. It's because of something that happens in the human heart. It's not because these institutions are just things that sort of exist nebulously by themselves and drive people to be bad. I mean, I know he does hate these institutions, but he gets at the heart of what makes them bad, which is always people. And there's always representatives, characters that actually, it's not just the school system that's oppressing somebody. It's Mr. Squeers, and it's not just the church that's oppressing somebody. It's Reverend Chadban, and it's these people and their desires and
That's good.
their nastiness.
Yeah, because that actually takes me back to something I wasn't really articulating very well, Flannery O'Connor. She's similar to this in that she's always talking directly about people. And her parallel would have been Graham Greene. And he was always about the system, man. The system's keeping you down, right?
That's what makes so much of modernist and postmodernist stuff boring, and the overly political stuff that you're talking about is it's not actually about people. It's just about like the American capitalist system. And it's like, what is that?
Yeah.
If it's bad, it's because there's a bunch of greedy people taking advantage of other people. Let's put some flesh and blood on this.
That's why I've never actually thought 1984 was a very successful book or have cared much for it.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's
kind of
boring.
flat for me.
Yeah. Minus the sex, which is what I think kids actually like. I don't know.
Yeah, and a lot of dystopian books like that just are flat to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's because it misses these sort of, like you were saying, the moralism. Dickens, Austen, these guys are not afraid to be moralists because they know that life, in essence, is moral and driven by actions that people actually take, as opposed to being forced to take them by the system.
Yeah, it's not philanthropy that's bad. It's Mrs. Jellybees that's bad.
And it doesn't mean the system's not there. I mean, he sees the system.
Oh, sure, yeah. And he hates
the machinery of Chancery, and it's awful.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still everybody's relation to Chancery.
And you see that it's perpetuated by the Mr. Voles and the Kenjan Carboyles and the Lord Chancellors and the
and Richard
and the Richards, you know,
who are taken advantage of by it, and Jarndyces who have the least part wisdom to just stay away from it and not assume anything good's going to come out of it.
Yeah. I don't know how to differentiate that exactly from the novels that blame it on the system and don't really believe in human depravity, but it's different. I don't know what it is that Dickens does exactly.
Well, I think it's where the blame ends up landing. Dickens sees the monster is going to exist. It's like Mordor. Mordor's there. You can't get rid of Mordor. What matters is the way that each person responds to Mordor.
All we have to do is what the time that's been given to us. I've said to try to say that quote twice.
But that's that. I mean, that in essence is the difference. It places blame on, and it places the agency in the person, as opposed to the agency being somehow twisted and like it's all intertwined. And that's where it becomes interesting, is like seeing how the system is actually producing actors and vice versa. All this crud that you hear when you have to do graduates is cool.
Guys, I'm going to ask the most lame high school essay question that's ever been asked.
Go ahead.
Why does Dickens use two different narrative devices to tell this story?
I don't know.
Oh.
Because he was a genius?
Correct. Dani, your thoughts?
Ditto. It's interesting.
Why not just tell it all through Esther? I always perk up when Esther shows up.
Yeah, but you need some. You know.
Yeah.
Oh man, sorry. You need to get to know all those other characters. Esther has no insight into. Well, I don't know.
But neither did Nicholas Nickleby. Neither did there's lots of first-person novels that contrive ways to bring lots of action into the stage.
Maybe this gets into Dickens's SJW-ness, but you wouldn't know anything about Chancery if Esther were narrating.
Well, you'd have Mr. Jarndyce have a bunch of monologues and stories, and
have Esther be in the room sewing while a lawyer comes over and talks to
Blurg. That sounds boring.
Would it be as boring as just having the narrator do it? Is this Dickens' only novel that has a first present tense, by the way, Brandon? I was trying to think if he had anything else that was written in the present tense.
Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah, Tale of Two Cities.
Is it?
Oh, present tense.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying third person.
No.
No, I'm sorry. Sorry.
Is it?
What?
Pretty sure you're right. Yeah, I mean, that's...
How dare you, sir?
No, and that is part of the weirdness of this.
It was the best of times.
We hadn't talked about this.
That's totally present tense.
Yeah. It was?
It's past tense.
Yeah, Jake.
He's making fun of me.
Oh. Yeah.
No, I think
my brain's not working very well.
No, I'm pretty sure this is one of the only...
Jake, I'd like to apologize. You did some really obvious sarcasm, and I was like, well, obviously that's not true, Jake.
I want to say...
I accept your apology.
I mean, it's not common for a novel to be in the present tense.
What other novels have you read in your life that are in present tense? Brandon Chastain, PhD, ABD?
Top of my head?
Yes.
Speaking to the microphone. You should suck into the microphone a little bit more, probably.
Off the top of my head? I'm going to have to think this through, Nathan.
Is As I Lay Dying?
I was thinking maybe Faulkner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've definitely not done anything else on the Bookening, have we, Jake? I assume.
Not remembering.
Danny, you ever read anything first person? You ever read anything first person? You ever read any words before? What's
apparently it's not a very common. It's more of a modernist thing.
Sure. I think
It's
that's
funny now that you say that. I didn't even notice that the book was written like that.
Really?
If you had asked me, I would have said, "No, that's silly."
It is though. You would
Yeah,
acknowledge.
I just looked.
Yeah, it's
That
I mean, what it does is it gives it a very theatrical, like it's happening on stage. In front of
Yeah.
right now.
Like you're almost walking
such and
down.
such is coming onto stage, and
Yeah, you're
The
walking.
Handmaid's Tale is present tense.
There we go.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
you missed-
a lot of what people say when they look at the style and the structure of this novel is it is a very modern thing. Creature. It's a very modern novel.
A very modern thinking creature.
Very model thinking creature.
I am the very model of a thinking creature.
Novel man.
Novel man. I am the very model of a modern
Thinking
thinker
novel man. There's a t-shirt.
There's a t-shirt.
I am the very model of a modern thinking model
Looking at
man.
a list of popular present tense books on Goodreads, they're
All right.
all very modern.
When Dickens wrote me, he had a very mighty,
This
awesome plan.
There's
But he
nothing
sure could
actually
use some
worth
editing.
saying apart from
John Updike, Rabbit Run.
Is Rabbit
One
Run?
Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
I've not read Rabbit Run.
All of the
The Rabbit
Mockingjay or Hunger
Mock.
Games books.
Oh,
yeah.
man. There we go.
Jay.
That's right.
Well, it's a weird style, and it strikes you immediately that something different is going on with the narrative style in this book.
I've read a lot of pot boilers, like modern, like Jack Reacher kind of stuff. Maybe not Jack Reacher specifically, but things like that. Tom Clancy, whatever, Stephen King, I don't know, where they'll have a little chunk. Like the
Yes.
prologue will be like, the girl gets her dragon tattoo and then she does awesome stuff. And it'll sort of be setting the stage very theatrically, but then it'll just go into normal
Yeah.
past tense.
This
can't
isn't-
Well, I think-
think of an example.
One of you just said it's very theatrical, and it reminded me of just reading now that you say that, reading a script.
Mhm.
Yeah, someone enters from stage left, the lady sits, Tulkinghorn lurks, all those things.
Mhm.
It is very visual.
Well, yeah, I think about how many times in this novel I felt like I was actually there.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Like when they're in the room looking at Nemo's body.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a pretty creepy little
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
You feel like you're there with Tulkinghorn,
Mhm.
watching and waiting for the doctor to show
Mhm.
up. And
Mhm.
it does give it feels like it's present. Feels very present
Mhm.
because it is very present.
Present.
But
Yeah. Well, I'm imagining reading that around the fire,
Mhm.
having just gotten it in the magazine
Yeah.
Yeah.
or whatever, just how on the edge of your seat everyone would be, or is there?
yeah, and so there's the immediacy that it gives you. Then also it allows for you to feel like it's a break when Esther's telling her narrative in a more traditional style.
It also
Mhm.
makes it a relief to me, at least. It's like, okay, we can settle down. We can enjoy ourselves.
Yeah, there is an intensity to it as well.
Mhm.
The scenes where he's telling the story in present tense are usually pretty
Yeah.
intense.
Mhm. There you go.
Yeah. I wonder if that makes Chancery realer too. If I'd been reading it and Chancery was this place where they did this thing, and it would just feel so not relatable.
What's weird is when someone jumps between the two narratives, like a character that you mostly like Richard, you mostly know him through Esther, and then suddenly he's on stage with that present tense narrator. It's kind of like, oh, you should hide. Like this present tense narrator guy is really theatrical and sarcastic. Maybe go back to Esther's narrative,
Yeah.
dude. Like,
Yeah. Oh, when they step out of the different worlds.
well, and also when Lady Deadlock shows up in Esther's narrative, it's like they're crossing a boundary.
that's
Yeah.
interesting.
It's
It's like
true.
a different lens almost.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing them in a different way. It's
Well, it
interesting.
does allow then, and I think it probably one thing it does definitely do is it adds more. I think it adds some depth to Esther's character
Mhm.
in the sense that we have the narrator who's in the present tense, and he is very sarcastic and he's very aware and urbane and all these
Mhm.
things. And then you have Esther on the other end. Compared to him, you see a lot of things about Esther
Yeah.
because you're carrying over some of that into her narrative as well.
How much of what the narrator knows does Esther?
Yeah, she
Mhm.
doesn't know. And also, what would he be saying about Esther if she
Mhm.
was a character in his?
Oh, that would be
Right.
cool. And that never happens, right? Esther never shows
I was
up.
just wondering that. I don't think he does.
No, she doesn't, but it would be interesting. Right. And so I think that even subconsciously that kind of draws over to there
Yeah.
and helps you see Esther in the right light. But also, I think another thing it allows Dickens to do is tell you and flesh out this world for you in a way that's not cheesy, in the sense that he has to think of all these different manipulations and deus ex machinas to make Esther know everything she would need to know.
Yeah, I hate first-person novels a lot of the time for that reason, because it's like, well, everything interesting happened to this guy, and he just
that's why the first-person novels, the best first-person novels are like the postmodern novels with like Ishiguro or someone, because first person works best when the first person doesn't know everything.
Yeah, first-person novels work well for detective things, I think, like Raymond Chandler. Dani, you're not a big Raymond Chandler fan.
I didn't love him.
Well,
Ishiguro.
Brandon, I have a question.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I love how at the end that he has pulled in all these characters interlocking, and even how designed was it from the start? Do you know?
Dickens was a very plot oriented.
So he had planned. I mean, it took over a year to publish it.
Back 992. Here you go. So like this, he would have it all sketched out and written out.
Oh, neat.
And so, yeah, he was like Rowling. He was very careful with his plots. He knew where he wanted things to go. He knew when he wanted things to happen, the rhythm of the plot as it was developing, why he would show you this character here as opposed to here. So he knew how he was kind of leading you on to the final reveals and how everything then would come together in the final chapters.
That's great.
he was a genius at it.
Yeah.
And he understood the value of something that people are rediscovering with peak TV and Breaking Bad and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Delayed gratification. Really, I want to say I sympathize with Jake a lot. There were parts that I skimmed, just like, especially when we got away from Esther and into that sarcastic narrator. It's just like,
I would too.
I love him in my head. Like everything you're saying is like, that's what I love.
Right.
More than anything.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and we're going to read some Dickens that you're going to like before the book.
I'm going to read this and like it eventually.
I think you will. It's great. But it does take a long time to get it reminds me of like Mad Men or Breaking Bad or something like that, where you really are sitting through some boring legwork. But then when the payoffs come, they're that much more powerful,
really
precisely
off.
because you've had to wait for them.
Yeah,
listen to this. This is just really interesting seeing his notes.
Mm-hmm.
He would name it Stop Him, Tom All Alone's Night and Morning. He would set the scene. Alan, Jenny, Joe. Joe tells that he was taken away by Mr. Bucket. Mr. Tulkinghorn to be shot. Pointing Roman. George to be taken by Bucket? Yes. Joe? Yes. Kill him. Alan and Richard? Not Richard. Mr. Guppy? No. Smallweeds? No. So he would like have these things planned out to know which characters were going to come on stage and all this stuff. It's really fascinating.
Which
Oh,
characters
wow.
were definitely not supposed to come on stage.
Not
You
this
imagine
guy.
Rowling probably worked very similarly.
Yeah.
You can see that.
Absolutely.
I can see why she loves him so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so even in
I
his
think
early...
she probably worked very similarly with each book.
Yeah.
But I think that she also is a really frugal chef who would go back and,
in different time.
How can I use this thing?
Yeah. What are the random things that I put in here that I can make use of and make mean something more than it that I originally meant it to? I think she's really good at that.
And she had payoff like from one novel, then 5 novels later.
She also had a word processor. You ever thought about how much harder it is for somebody like Dickens to just like write this stuff longhand, I'm guessing? I mean...
And it's fascinating though.
Well, you would have to be that much
all.
more careful in plot.
Yeah.
In planning it out.
Oh, sure.
And that's what I mean. So this is broken down. This is before he would know how each serial would end. He knew what would happen in each serial. And then he would change it a bit as he would write. But still, it's fascinating to see that he had this big plan already worked out.
Yeah.
And this is pretty much how he worked from Oliver Twist on. Because Oliver Twist is very plotted as well.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, a lot of the stuff that happens in Oliver Twist pays off in the final chapters.
Sure, yeah.
Even if it is kind of bad payoff. But.
Oliver Twist is a good story. I don't know why the novel itself doesn't do it for me. Do you like Oliver Twist?
Yeah, well, not in. I think the writing is kind of clotted.
Yeah.
And that one character, what's his name? The bad guy.
Sykes? Or not Bill Sykes, the
Fagin?
Fagin?
No, the one that's been playing with Oliver's past.
Oh.
You know that one?
Yeah.
It's a minor. People forget him, but he's like supposed to be this big twist at the end.
Yeah.
And it just never does work for me.
Yeah.
No, the Sykes and Fagin storyline is great.
Yeah.
That's the storyline that...
It's kind of the heart of the...
Yeah, that's the storyline that everybody remembers. But when you actually read the novel, there's this other weird primary storyline with how Oliver became and why then Oliver can become...
Oh, yeah, that stuff's really weird.
Remember who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's pretty bad stuff.
It is pretty bad stuff.
And everybody forgets it. And it's always cut out in the movies and stuff.
All right. I'm going to ask Schmoops questions because I like to ask Schmoops questions. And sometimes I think bad questions can lead to good answers, which is a good reason to ask these questions.
Monks.
Number 1.
The mysterious man monks.
Monks, yeah. Okay. This is how the question begins. Okay, you're the hotshot behind this novel's marketing, and you're thinking of the future. Which character or plot thread would get its own spin-off?
Oh my goodness. Mr. Guppy.
Mr. Guppy gets his own spin-off?
Oh no, Prince and Caddy Turvy Drop. And their
Dance Academy?
Their Dance Academy with
Dancing with the Turvy Drop?
Dancing with the Turvy Drops.
I was going to think Mr. Guppy and that other friend of his who ends up moving up, and they find the
what's
crooks,
his name?
Mr. Lippet or something.
Oh, I forgot about that. Mr. Lippet.
It would be fun to have them like
Mr.
be a
Lippet.
weird X-Files sort of figures where they just wander London
turns into a
together and
fish.
come upon these weird
Yep.
supernatural things that are
He's
happening.
a fish that turns into Don Knotts.
Yeah, turn into
That's
a fish. Yeah. Don Knotts should be in more Dickens.
Pepperoni knots.
Yep.
Whew. I've heard those are pretty good.
Jobling.
Jobling.
Jobling, yeah. But he has
Mr.
another
Weevil.
name. He's got 2 names. Weevil, yeah.
Weevil. Yeah.
Well, I think we all have to answer this question. Kenjin Carboyle is the coolest sounding carb something.
Carboys.
Kenjin Carboys, yes.
Kenjin Carbuncles.
I'd watch a Mr. Jarndyce prequel, maybe. I like Mr. Jarndyce a lot. I don't know. There's a lot of good spinoffs you could do. Brandon, what's your spinoff?
I said it already. Guppy and Jobling.
Guppy and Jobling. Okay, and they solve mysteries.
I think it'd be fun to watch them just go around London and get into these weird situations where you find out that...
Would Little Smallweed be there too?
Say what?
Little Smallweed?
Yeah, Little Smallweed can be in there as well. And it all has to do with like some Illuminati plot with the Queen, that these weird things are happening and they've got to go around London now that they've seen the spontaneous combustion.
Get a little steampunk.
They're in too
there.
deep now, and it'd be awesome.
Yeah. Ends on a blimp.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yep.
Big fight with
Thursday. His head gets real big and bounces down the road.
Boo. Boo. Boo to the man who was Thursday. Talk about a bad Victorian novel.
Are we ever going to do Chesterton?
Yeah, we will. And we will make sure he stays dead.
Well, what's awful about that book is
It's so good.
Up until that last
Yeah.
chapter. And then he just loses me.
Yuck. Danny, have you read The Man Who Was Thursday?
I have not.
No sense.
I started it once and then I didn't finish.
Oh.
Almost as bad as what happened. Well, maybe worse. Nah, it's not as bad as what happens until we have faces, because it's not.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, Until We Have Faces is like arguably a lot more blasphemous and terrible and mystical and weird.
Blasphemous, yeah.
Yeah. Man Who We Had Thursday. May I just say again, boo.
He just slaps you in the face.
Boo.
He loves to do that with his novels.
Capital B, capital O, capital O.
Boo.
Boo. And a couple of exclamation points. Danny, your spinoff, please.
The Dance Academy.
Oh, Dan, yeah.
With all those little, they were gathering all those little apprentices.
You'd have to put
sounds
off with the old Mr. Turvy Drop, though. That's too bad.
But he did have that endearing relationship with Mr. Jellyby, where they like kind of bonded.
That's true. That was true. And Mr. Jellyby finally had something to do besides bang his
Sounds
head
like
against the wall.
Sounds
or
like a
whatever.
Downtown Abbey.
Yeah. It does sound like it does that way. Jake, your spinoff?
Jellybees Jellies. You'd
Jellybees
say
Jellies.
British baking show where you have to make really complex confectionery.
Confections.
Confections.
You
The-
For
use
Mrs. Jellyby
to
to
send to
eat.
Africa.
Proceeds
Proceeds to go to
go to the pygmies in Africa.
Mhm.
Boreo Bugala,
Boreabugula.
whatever it's called.
Okay. I like this.
All right, good. We're going to make
They're all getting greenlit.
$1 million. Mine would be just called Tulkinghorn, I think. And it would
Oh,
just be
good
like
idea.
an awesome.
See all the secrets he knows.
Yeah,
and-
we just like he visits a rich family and exposes their secrets and destroys them. And he's just like, it's like a bad guy show. I like shows about bad guys.
It'd be like Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, it'd be like Boardwalk Empire. I love that kind of stuff. As anyone
Nice.
that listens to Sound of Sanity knows, I like stories about bad guys. All right.
There you go. That's
Question number 2. One of Dickens' tricks for making sure readers recognize and remember each character is to give each of them some verbal or physical tick. Smallwood needs to be pumped like a pillow. Badger is obsessed with his wife's previous husbands. Baguette doesn't praise his wife to her face because discipline must be
good.
maintained.
That's his quirk.
Yeah, his quirk is he's obsessed.
He's a guy who's obsessed with the fact that his wife's had a lot of lovers.
Yeah.
He's kind of intimidated by that fact.
Right.
Isn't that quirky?
It's just one of those crazy characters. Voles talks in a whisper. Phil walks with one shoulder against the wall of the room. switch around some of these ticks and what happens to these characters. So let's pretend like Esther
Skip.
is obsessed with her wife's previous husbands.
Skip.
What happens? All right, that question sucks.
They become different characters. Thank you, Schmoop.
I keep using schmoop because I think it's fun, but I don't know what it is. Maybe it's for like little kids or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's trying to be something cool.
I mean, it's definitely supposed to be
Wait,
fun.
little kids don't read Bleak House.
This is for like high school
It wouldn't
students
be
or
for little
college
kids.
students, unfortunately. And I guarantee you have bad adjunct professors who don't want to do their job that pull up Schmoop and try to use these as ways to get their students to talk because they don't have any reason to be a teacher.
Okay, well, that's as good incentive as we've ever needed to ask question number 3.
And yes, that is calling out quite a few of my fellow grad students.
Brandon's throwing shade today. I love it. The third person narrator
almost-
tends to take a tone
almost
of jaded
Dickensian.
cynicism.
What?
What's that?
it?
What?
Huh?
Say that again.
The third person narrator tends to take a tone of jaded cynicism, while Esther narrates with a kind of intelligent curiosity. Find passages, Boo. We're not going to find any passages.
Intelligent curiosity.
Yeah.
Do they read this book?
Yeah, she's pretty intelligent and curious.
She is. Would that be the come up with 2 adjectives to define the way that she narrates? Intelligent curiosity?
No,
Okay.
I don't think that would be it.
Point proven. Move on.
Danny, come up with 2 adjectives to
Oh.
define the way that Esther narrates.
I guess it's too late for that. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Imagine replacing Esther as the first person narrator. Who else's voice would be interesting to hear tell the story? One of the good characters? One of the bad guys?
Skimple.
Are these characters that just wouldn't be able to be narrators because they are too self-centered, too dumb to explain what's happening, or for some other reason?
Well, I mean, it would have to be somebody who's at the heart of the story, so you get her or you get Ada.
Preferably not someone like Joe, who doesn't understand anything that's going on.
What's this pintang here? Can I eat it?
I always wanted to know the Lord's Prayer.
Would you say it to
Would
me,
you say
sir?
it to me, sir?
Good, sir.
Which character, this is the last Schmoop question, which character could easily live in our times with just a change of clothes? Who is least suited to life today? Why?
Well, Skimple.
We've already established we know a Skimple, so they can live.
It doesn't mean he's well suited to life.
No, true. Well, neither was Mr. Skimple, you could argue.
Right. Which is why he translates.
True.
Uh-huh.
Why am I giving this serious thought?
Mr. Crook could not live in our times because he spontaneously combusted.
I mean,
I actually- oh, I
he could
was
be a pawn
thinking- I
shop
think-
owner.
I think Richard is all that stuff. There was a whole section about how he was ruined by his schooling,
Mm-hmm.
that he had all these things that could have become virtues.
Yeah. Like his Latin phrases.
Yeah,
and-
that all he learned were just Latin phrases, and instead he wasn't taught to like figure out what he was good at
Mhm.
and what he should do with his life.
Yes.
And as working in college ministry, he'd say we see guys like that.
Yeah,
who-
you see those guys all the time.
Yeah, who have no idea what they're suited for, kind of maybe would like to do kind of anything. I mean, Dickens, part of it, I think, is schooling, and which I think is legitimately now, too.
Oh, yeah.
You need to pass your Common Core stuff, and that's what matters, and we're not really sure what you're good at, but maybe we find that out in college.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wait, go to grad school. We'll see if you find out there.
You got a bunch of debt now, though.
Yeah, it's like pouring money into the chancery suit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
So you're
Modern education.
This is deep
probably.
stuff, Danny.
This is deep stuff.
Thanks.
Yeah.
People just got their money's worth right there.
Yeah. I hope so.
Hey, that was good.
Yeah, no, that was good.
And your answer's good too. Crook wouldn't, because we don't spontaneously combust anymore.
No.
Or do we?
Or do we?
Oh no!
So ended Brandon's tenure on the Bookening.
Sorry for the oily residue.
If Danny said, or do we, and then you blew up, I would have to assume that Danny had telekinetic powers and
It just killed me.
killed you. Yeah. I mean,
Or this trigger in my hand.
I don't like it when people spontaneously combust. I had a
that's
book
gross.
growing up.
Think about the
of,
cleanup.
What?
Think about the cleanup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I had a book of it was like Mysterious Wonders of the World. It was like a book with UFOs and Loch Ness, and it had all these photographs and stuff of all that stuff. But there was a picture. There's a very famous picture of an old lady that spontaneously combusted. I don't know why it's making me laugh.
Because it's funny.
I just remember there's this photograph of
the charred remains of an old lady.
Yeah, no, it's just like
it's hilarious.
It's this giant pile of charred remains, and then there's just a leg sticking out of it. And
Did it say crispy?
No, it didn't say crispy.
Wow. Guys.
How dare you?
Sorry.
This lady spontaneously combusted, and all you can do is laugh.
Oh man, I'm an awful person.
I mean,
I had my grandfather.
Your grandfather's
spontaneously combusted. No, he at one point in his life he was a pastor at a Southern Baptist church. He had all these weird books, and I remember getting a hold of one about a cult.
One about it in the cult.
One about cults. But I remember being horrified by this book because it's Christian Scientists. They claimed in this book that those who are really in the know in Christian Science can put curses on people. That there was this person who tried to get out of Christian Science, and he died by continually shedding his skin like a snake over and over again. It was a horrible image that I remember. It was like almost like he would like belch it out, he'd belch himself out of his own skin.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, and that's how he died. It just kept happening over and over again until he died.
Oh,
and that was part of the curse of trying to leave the Christian Scientists. And ever since then, I've hated anything occult.
Listen, if anyone's listening to this and they're in Christian Science, do not leave.
You don't want to belch yourself out.
The thing is to stay in Christian Science.
I mean, you're not a snake.
Yeah, you are a Christian Scientist.
You won't survive.
What are we talking about? Mr. Bucket was cool.
Yeah. Wasn't he a great detective?
Yeah, what a great
character. We haven't gotten
character.
to him yet. That this book really needs longer than a month.
So where would Mr. Bucket rank in your top detectives?
I really liked him. He's my favorite kind of detective. I love the Columbo. Yeah. I love the guy. My favorite kind of character in a book, my favorite kind of hero, my favorite kind of detective in particular is someone that's really unassuming and genial and cool. Like Gandalf the Grey is so much cooler than Gandalf the White. Gandalf the Grey is not genial, but he just looks like an old man, and all the hobbits don't take him seriously. And everybody, he's just some dude, but he has immense power.
Yeah,
I love that kind of a hero. So the fact that Mr. Bucket's just like, "Hey, buddy," and then,
but he's figuring it out.
I also liked even like as we're reading, he took away Joe, and I'm wondering, okay, well, I know Brandon loves Mr. Bucket. I know he's a really good guy. Like, what on earth is going on? But I think if I didn't know that, I'd think, hey, Mr. Bucket, what's he doing?
Right.
I even like that in the story, that he's not just your... I like that he's kind of a side character that you get to wonder about.
And he's eccentric, but he also gets to take charge at the end and figure everything out and resolve the story.
And he has a very classic ending of a classic Agatha Christie style detective story where he brings all the suspects in, and it's really drawing room kind of detective 101.
Yeah, and he pulls out the paper and from the wastebasket and all that stuff. Yeah,
I think
that's really great.
I may have said in an earlier episode of the Bookening that he might be my favorite detective.
Yeah, I think you did.
And I think that he still remains probably my favorite.
He's really fun. He's a good character. And Mrs. Bucket's fun, and everything about it's fun.
Yeah. So I think he might still be my favorite detective.
I mean, I just even like the scene, like where he shows up at the What's Their Faces, and they all decide that they're going to invite him back every year.
Bagnets.
Just like
the
Bagnets.
On her birthday every year.
The Bagnets love him so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's there to
and they're
arrest
so lovable.
Mr. George. Yeah. It's like,
because George.
And they leave and he arrests them, but he does it in a really chill way.
It is very chill. Yeah. Hecka chill.
No, it is fun watching Dickens put in all the classic elements of a great detective story here before they were really...
It's like just on Dickens is like, I'm having a good day. I'll just offhandedly create a trope and stuff it in. Like
Dickens is like, hey, look at me. Here I am creating the detective story.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because you got it all. You got the guy who you love that you know has to be innocent, but you still maybe think he did it with George.
Uh-huh.
Right? And then you have the person who really ends up doing it. You're not really expecting.
Well, Lady Deadlock is even somebody that you don't particularly like, but you also really don't want her to have done it.
Right.
Even though you think maybe she did, but how could
that
she
doesn't seem quite right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then it ends up being Esther.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Right. It was actually Charles Dickens. He wrote himself into the novel.
He kills Tulkinghorn.
Yeah, it's really meta.
Tulkinghorn belches himself out of his own skin.
Right.
He tried to leave Christian Science.
I was told you do not do that. If there's one moral to Bleak House, it's do not leave Christian Science. Well, this is going to be a really long episode, but did you have anything else you wanted to say about Bleak House, Dani?
I don't think so. I did really like it. I'm glad that I invited myself on, so I forced myself to read it.
Well, I'm going to ask you that in a more official capacity and cut out the thing we just said. So, guys, Bleak House. Jake, I'll ask you. Do you give Bleak House the coveted BSOA?
I'm unqualified to say.
You're accusing yourself.
Yes, he is. J'accuse.
I'm recusing myself.
J'accuse. I like to say j'accuse. What does j'accuse mean? J'accuse is a thing, isn't
I think
it?
it means I accuse.
I accuse.
maybe.
En français.
Accuse.
J'accuse. Yeah, it does.
I almost thought you were making a play on the name Jake, though.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I thought that's what you were doing.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Brandon,
Hey.
did you like the novel, or do you need to accuse yourself?
Oh, Nathan, that doesn't work. This gets the coveted Bookening seal of approval for me.
Does it hold up? I mean, this is
Yeah,
like
it held up.
This is one of your books, man. This
Yeah,
is one of your
mine.
jams.
Yeah.
So
Holds up. Well, I've told you this. I don't think I've said it on the Bookening yet.
Mm.
I see, after reading Bleak House again, I see why it's considered to be probably Dickens' best novel.
Mhm.
It's so wonderfully crafted and the characters are amazing. It's not my favorite Dickens novel.
No. And we probably shouldn't have started with
Yeah.
it for poor Jake's sake. There
Yeah.
probably was a better
I think it is his
point.
best, but my favorite is David Copperfield.
old DC. Danny, same question.
I give it the seal of approval.
The Bookening seal of approval, the
Yeah.
coveted.
The coveted. The
Did
one
you-
and only.
How does this book rank? Is this like a really, really good book, or just a nice time waster kind of a book, or like, I mean, where would you put this in the pantheon of books that Danny's read?
I think it's really, really good. I'm glad I read it. I'm glad I invited myself on so that
Yeah.
I had to read it because I wouldn't have finished it otherwise. But it makes me want to go read more shorter Dickens.
Yes.
As far as being one of the most interesting books you can read, it's way up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it does make me sad that I can't just recommend it to people because, oh, hey, by the way, it's 800 pages long.
it will take you the rest of this year to read.
Right.
Right.
And next year.
It is really long, and there will be parts where you're like, "This is really boring,"
hmm
but hey, it's for horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I will admit to being very sympathetic to everything that our friend Jake said. I did find that a lot, especially when we got away from Esther's narrative, I did find that it could get a little dry. But man, the payoffs when they come are good, and he is a tremendous craftsman and a tremendous writer. And I mean,
Yeah.
he's Charles Dickens. What do you want from me?
This was actually so I only read a couple other things by him, and this is where I finally got to see his humor because Tale of
Mhm.
Two Cities is not very funny.
No, Tale of Two Cities isn't funny.
So that was really fun to
Yeah.
actually see, like, yeah, this guy was hilarious, and to realize that it was fun.
Yeah.
Not just smart, also funny.
Not just smart, also funny. Maybe we should put that on our t-shirts.
That's actually not bad.
Not just smart,
but funny.
Also funny.
There we go. Terrifyingly right. That was an option, right?
I forgot about Terrifyingly Right. Prosaic matrimony is the erotic necessity that keeps us from giving into the modernist machine, or whatever that quote was. Still my favorite, I think, but
Might not be a t-shirt quote.
I think it might be. Oh, shoot, guys.
Donor shout outs.
Yep.
Just shout them out, Nathan.
No, you guys have to help. I'm sorry. Brennan, you are going to tell Danny how to do it.
Oh,
Mighty Mighty Mason.
as a Brit.
Mighty Mighty Mason.
And Jake, you are going to give a rating to how Danny did it from 1 to 4 stars.
2 stars.
Wow.
Can I just
That's what I
choose
was
different
feeling.
ethnicities to make this really?
You can do whatever you want
Nathan.
within moral reason.
Well, thank you.
The inscrutable Chelsea. No, that's not her name, is it?
The immortal.
The immortal Chelsea E.
As an Aussie.
Australia.
That's not a
Australia,
knife.
Immortal Chelsea E.
Nathan, not me. Oh, Jake has
He's
to rate
supposed to rate it.
Sorry.
Nathan.
Sorry.
2 stars.
This is
Wow.
going to take forever.
I hope Danny gets a 3-star or 4-star.
Jake's very harsh.
Yeah. No,
No, he's legit.
That's what makes him amazing.
yeah, he's legit.
He's legit.
Is that a harsh judge?
He's too legit to quit.
He's too legit to quit. If he was any
legit.
less legit, he'd probably quit.
Yeah, but he can't because he's too legit.
Yeah, too legitimate to quit admit.
Yeah, if he was any less, he'd probably quit.
Yeah.
But he's
Wow.
Too legit to quit. Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Oakley.
I mean, obviously, as a Texan.
Jimmy Beam and Little Annie Oakley.
3.5 stars.
Wow.
Whoa!
Brendan, as an actual Texan, what do you give that?
3.5 stars.
Woo!
Wow, okay.
Yeehaw!
All right. Lily of the Valley.
As someone from The Sound of Music. Is it
Li-
Lily of the Valley?
Lily of the Valley.
Huh?
2 2.5 stars.
Wow. Jake is a hard taskmaster. Taskmaster? No. Taskmaster.
It wasn't the singing,
Taskmaster.
it was the melody that kept it.
Yeah, it was actually a Muppet Christmas Carol song that I was singing.
Yeah, if you had said Muppet Christmas Carol, I would have probably given that 4 stars.
Andrew and Esther, the lover.
Andrew, as someone from La La Land.
Oh,
You seen that one?
yeah, I have. I don't remember it at all.
Something 20s. Snappy.
Andrew and Esther, the lovebirds.
4 stars.
Oh,
wow.
wow. That's a shot up there.
La La Land.
That was
Amazing,
The inscrutable Jenny Z.
The inscrutable. Oh, I'm not supposed to say it. Oh, as a German.
the inscrutable Jenny Z.
Well.
2 stars.
2 stars.
Whoa.
Wow.
You haven't gotten a 1 star yet, so that's nice.
That's true. That's true.
Go for a 1 star.
Oh, hurt her feelings.
I'm sure there'll be a 1 star.
You're just going to tell her she's thoroughly mediocre, but you're not going to hurt her feelings. Robert and Rhonda, the lovebirds.
As French people.
Robert et Rhonda de le Pet.
Ooh, 4 stars.
I believe
like it.
Brandon said French people. That sounds like a French person.
Yeah.
I'll give that
That's
0
right. I
star.
can't do
One of the
my
whole
throat
chorus.
singing multiple voices.
Oh, English is not my thing.
No, it's not. You don't know anything about English. John and Jill, the lovebird, the little baby Max.
Oh, as a circus master.
With a whip, apparently. Jake held her. What's your name? Brandon held up a whip.
John and Jill, the lovebird. Oh, who? Who am I doing? John and Jill, the lovebird?
Yeah, John and Jill, the
Okay.
yeah.
John and Jill, the lovebirds, and little baby Max.
Uh-oh. Do I sense a 1.5 stars?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
2 stars.
2 stars. Okay.
It's close.
The Keith Master.
Oh, as if you were to imagine someone narrating during the X-Files theme song, they would sound like this.
Never seen the X-Files. The Keith Master. I don't know.
0 stars.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome to
Move
the
on.
X-Files. Pretty
Move
weird.
along. Sorry, Keith. Move along.
It's Mulder and Scully. I loved it. I would love to watch the version of the X-Files. 4 stars from me, Danny. Okay. David's Mighty Men.
Oh,
Trucking.
as Pennsylvanians from Philadelphia.
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania from Philadelphia as opposed to...
David's Mighty Men Trucking.
I don't know.
I don't either.
I was thinking of Jerry Cochran. however
3
he
stars.
Philadelphia
Pittsburgh.
people kind of, don't they have like a kind of a
Pittsburgh.
city sort of a...
Do it again.
No, I already did.
All right, well, then we'll do the next one as Pittsburgh.
All right, fine. Oh, no. You can't do this one as Pittsburgh.
What is it?
Well, it's not going to be that. It's going to be something different.
You don't get to set this, mister.
Whoa. That'd be a good voice to use on one of your kids, by the way, if you don't already. What did I say this person was last time?
Chattering and clattering?
Chattering, the chattering, clattering Joanna.
Oh, man. Oh, help me here. As what? Jake, as what?
It's not my job.
It's not your job. That's right. It's my job.
Foiled again.
Oh, as Spanish Spaniard.
A Spanish Spaniard. Yeah.
Chattering, clattering. Joanna.
The chattering, clattering Joanna.
Joanna.
Wow. Well, 1 star.
Oh, that hurts.
Oh, no. That
Danny,
deserved 1 star.
You're going to get it back with this one.
Yeah,
You gotta.
you got to.
I expect a 4-star production for this.
Must be
The Incandescent Meredith.
the incandescent Meredith. Oh, what does she get?
Something that can
She's
be
in Chicago.
Yeah.
So as a Chicagoan. Hey, it's real windy up here,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah. The incandescent
You know-
Meredith.
I think you just said the incandescent Meredith.
It's real windy up here, you know.
Can you do that
Hey.
again? He was talking over you. Sorry.
Guys.
You can do it, Danny. I believe in you.
Oh.
Do it for Meredith.
Is that what I'm saying? The incandescent Meredith.
Mhm.
The incandescent Meredith.
Say
I'll
it
give
like,
you 3 stars.
yeah,
Oh,
3 stars.
thanks.
That's great. How can you get that one wrong?
Oh man, you have no idea how exhausting this is.
All right.
5 stars.
5 stars. Whoa. Who broke
Wow.
the scale? Broke the system there.
One of Maya likes it that hers is always never anything but just yelling.
I think it's fine.
gotta be
Love you, Maya.
endearing.
Yeah, it
I
makes me
would.
feel- we like Maya.
I think
Maya's
that's
great.
more interesting than me butchering their names with some accent I can't do.
I don't know that it's more interesting, but
It's kind of fun listening to you butcher the accents.
yeah, no, I
Thanks.
like it. I like it.
How
Well,
about
that's
Brandon
right.
does it next time?
Hey, I've done my fair share.
I do this every week. We don't know. We only get to put you on a spot every once in a while.
It's true.
Rockin' Ryan and Jumpin' Judy.
Like you're from Rock and Ryan. Yeah, like
Rock and Ryan, jump,
yeah,
jump,
yeah,
and
yeah.
Judy.
you got
4 stars.
it. You're
4
feeling
stars.
me.
That was
Thank
4
you.
stars.
Yeah.
Rockin' Ryan, Jumpin' Judy. Danny did it. Danny the dude.
I didn't even have to say it. I was just like, you come on. Keep
Yeah.
feeling it.
It's true.
Danny the dude.
Oh, Danny the dude.
Mhm.
Dubstep.
Danny the dude.
Jake doesn't even know what to think of that.
1.5 stars.
Acceptable.
5 stars. All right. Emphasis on the 5.
It's out of 4. That's not bad.
I know, it's not.
You make her do one as Maju.
Machu Picchu.
It says Machu Picchu.
Jumpy-Doo, yeah.
Majukman.
You know Danny's favorite.
Oh,
Danny's-
that's
Danny's
true. I
character.
completely forgot she had characters.
Yeah.
You want his Pastor Stew.
Where are we? DJ Sammy G.
And-
DJ Sammy G is Ma Dukeman.
I was DJ Sammy G.
There you go.
4
That's right.
star.
4 star. That is 4 star. For sure. Jay and Katie who are cold and love cheese.
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese, as Erica Rosebloom.
I think they might have been Erica Roseman last time I was on.
Oh, did we
Oh.
make you do this
no,
exact
it's
same
fine.
thing?
Jay and Katie, who are cold and love cheese.
Haha. Hey, sounds like Erica Rosebloom.
What was that?
I don't know. I was so excited
Success.
to see art in action.
Erica.
In the flesh.
Have you
Yeah.
done an episode with Erica?
No, do I get to?
Yay.
We're going to actually...
Well, you'll
Interact.
be in the
We've
same
never
room,
actually
yeah.
interacted.
Yeah, I don't know
think-
if you guys will.
You have not interacted with Chastain family yet.
No.
Are we
Not
part
on
of
Mike.
Are we going to be part of the second series arc?
Sure.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Chastains are there to stay. I mean, unless
Sweet.
you move out of town or die or something. But
Thanks. Time machine explodes.
yeah. Who are we at?
Can we ever bring Shakespeare back to the present?
Yeah, of course.
Sweet.
Benny
Can
and
Jake be Shakespeare?
yeah.
Will you speak
Totally.
with a British accent to be Shakespeare?
Sure.
Sweet.
Sure.
Sure.
As long as it's
Sure.
not on the bookening.
Sure, I will.
If
Brandon.
you're on, if you get to be Dickens and Shakespeare, because that's
Sure.
okay. Go ahead.
Benny and Danity.
What?
Benny and Danity.
Oh, Benny and Danity. As a mad scientist in the lab's about to explode.
Betty and Danity!
Whoa.
4 stars.
That's
4
amazing.
stars.
All we needed to do was give you some of the
I like that.
sanity characters. That sounds like that's going to be.
Mad scientist.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah.
crossed with like a used car salesman. Benny and Danity.
Get your Benny and Danity right now.
Come on down. Okay.
Fire sale. Literally.
I love selling cars. Eric and Catherine, the Lovebirds, and little baby Silas.
Oh, as a Russian who's in cahoots with Trump. It's like you're telling this to Trump
Eric.
as someone you want to put on the hit list.
Eric and Catherine and Silas.
2 stars.
I don't really feel like they're in
That was
much
generous.
danger here.
Eric and Catherine.
Dad made the vodka.
Russian Eric and Catherine.
Eric and Catherine.
They must be destroyed.
Well, yeah. Now try to be a woman doing that. It's a lot harder, okay?
Yeah, you
Yeah, I
gotta
can't
give it
imagine.
a little gravel. It definitely helps. Professor and Lady X.
What's Erica Rosebloom's husband's name?
Matt.
Oh,
Matt
no.
Rosebloom.
As Matt Rosebloom. Google, google.
Google. Professor X and Lady X. Google.
That's what you think of Matt?
That's probably really what she thinks of Matt.
Oh, wow.
2.5 stars.
2.5 star. What was that? Professor X and Lady X. Google.
There he goes.
Oh, yeah. Donor shout-outs are done. Thanks for listening to the Bookening, everybody. Thanks for being on the Bookening, Brandon.
You're welcome, Nathan.
Thanks for being on the Bookening, Jake.
You're welcome.
Thanks for being on the Bookening, Dani.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Come back next year sometime, why don't you?
Okay.
And also, we've got a special thing planned with Dani that I dare say I won't even be on.
Do you dare say?
Can we announce that? Why don't we announce it with Dani here? You want to announce that, Little Women?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to do that, right?
Oh, yeah, we're totally going to do that.
Let's go ahead and announce it. Dani, why don't you be the one to announce this? This is exciting.
Yeah, we're going to have our very first women only Bookening episode.
It's like in the Upside Down.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, is there
It's alternate reality.
Is there going to be a Demogorgon?
Yeah, lots of them.
Sweet.
Lots of Demogorgons.
You guys just try to outrun those Demogorgons. I'd like to
monsters.
see you do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a bunch of women.
Anyway, it'll be a women only Bookening episode on Little Women.
Yeah, women talking about like big women. Well, that's weird.
Fully grown women.
Fully grown women talking about
Adult
smaller.
women.
There we go. Adult women.
Yes, fully grown. Regular women. Tact. Yeah. Regular women of all shapes and sizes.
Jake's the only one who has it. Is that
What?
Tact.
No. Women friends of you got your Dani.
Yeah.
Who else is going to be on this thing with you, Dani?
Amanda Menzel.
Yeah. Who's she married to?
She's the pastor's wife who's a master at life.
Yeah, she's
Ooh,
the pastor's
nice.
wife who's a master at life.
Danny's already been prepared for this.
No,
Yeah,
I just pulled that out.
Yeah. Now you have Bookening cred, Bookening experience, and I feel like you're the most naturally me of those two. So I think I'm going to christen you host of this thing.
Wow.
You're the humble and obedient host. I think it just makes sense, don't you?
I think so. Yeah.
I think
Agreed.
we all sort of thought that's what would happen.
But we're going to need a contextual Texan, of course.
Ooh. Well, I guess that'll have to be that'll have to be the other woman that's on there because
The one and only Anna Chastain.
Anna Chastain.
Is there a Texaness? Texas
Nope.
Texas Princess.
Texas Princess.
Woo!
Yeah, and who's she married to?
The contextual Texan.
The contextual Texan himself, Brandon Chastain. So you guys are going to read. I don't know when in the year this is going to happen. Probably more dependent on you guys. But as far as I'm concerned, we can start making it happen whenever. But yeah, we're going to have the ladies, and they're going to do an episode, and they're going to be entertaining and insightful, and it'll be a heap of laughs and insights.
Heap of laughs.
Mm-hmm.
But we won't giggle.
You won't giggle?
I'm
No
opposed.
giggling, just laughing.
I'm opposed to giggling women on podcasts.
What about giggling men? Do we giggle on the Bookening, would you say?
I can't say you've never giggled.
You cannot. That's a very politic answer.
Wow.
I cannot say you've never giggled.
So
You're
we
on.
have giggled.
But have you had as much disdain for our giggling as for the giggling women?
The giggling gaggles of no, I don't think so.
She has to
I
turn her
accept
phone
this.
across the room occasionally.
Mm-hmm. But mostly we let out deep, manly throat.
Belly laughs.
Pass me that pipe in my whiskey, Nathan.
Just put your presents under the tree there, Santa. I will. All I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth.
I'll knock those teeth out with my mighty fists, Nathan.
Oh no! Thanks for listening, everybody.